It follows the journey of a young girl, Maya Thomas, as she navigates the challenges of an elite private school. After being humiliated by her teacher, Maya discovers that quiet strength is sometimes more powerful than retaliation. This story will remind you of the value of standing tall in the face of adversity, the power of family, and the potential for change in unexpected ways. Stay with us as we unravel a narrative that teaches us about the power of inner strength, respect, and growth. The sun cast a warm glow through the tall windows of Crestwood Academy, creating streaks of light across the polished marble floors. Maya Thomas sat at her desk, nervously clutching the edges of her notebook. Her classmates chatted around her, their voices blending into a distant hum. Today was presentation day, and Maya could already feel the weight of judgmental glances from the students around her. Crestwood Academy was a place where wealth and status spoke louder than words. Designer bags, luxury watches, and meticulously tailored uniforms were everywhere, subtly reminding Maya of the differences that set her apart. She preferred her simple sweaters and comfortable jeans. Her family could afford the luxuries, but her mother, Simone Thomas, had always taught her to value people for their character, not their appearance. Simone's words were a guiding light for Maya, who held on to them tightly, even when it felt like she was swimming against the current. Ms. Bennett, the English teacher, walked into the room, and the murmurs faded. She was known for her strict demeanor, her sharp tongue, and her preference for students who fit her mold of excellence. Maya knew she wasn't one of those students. She didn't have the polished charm or family connections that many of her classmates flaunted, but she loved literature, and today she was presenting a topic close to her heart: the power of storytelling. "First up, Maya Thomas," Ms. Bennett announced, her voice crisp and unwavering. Maya's heart raced as she stood, gathering her presentation notes. She felt the weight of her classmates' eyes on her as she made her way to the front of the room. She could hear faint whispers behind her, murmurs about her clothes, her quiet demeanor, her perceived lack of status. But Maya straightened her shoulders, remembering her mother's words: "Walk with dignity, no matter what anyone says." She began her presentation, speaking about how stories connect people across cultures and generations. Her voice started shaky, but gained strength as she delved into the topic. For a moment, she felt proud of herself. She was sharing something meaningful, something she believed in. Then, just as she was finding her rhythm, Ms. Bennett interrupted with a smirk. "Interesting choice of topic, Miss Thomas. Did you come up with that idea while shopping at wherever it is you get your clothes?" A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Maya felt her face flush with embarrassment as the words sank in. The laughter, the sneers, the way her classmates looked at her, it all hit her like a wave, threatening to pull her under. But instead of showing her hurt, Maya took a deep breath, steadying herself. She continued her presentation, determined to finish, even though her voice now quivered with the effort of holding back tears. When she finally returned to her seat, the humiliation lingered, like a weight pressing down on her chest. She kept her gaze fixed on her notebook, unwilling to meet the eyes of her classmates. The bell rang, and she hurriedly gathered her things, slipping out of the classroom and down the hall, her head down as she tried to escape the whispers that trailed behind her. That evening, as Maya sat quietly at the dinner table, her mother noticed her uncharacteristic silence. Simone Thomas was a perceptive woman, one who had built her career by noticing what others overlooked. Despite her success, she had always kept a low profile, even hiding her identity as the owner of Crestwood Academy from the school's staff and faculty. Maya respected her mother's strength and wisdom, but she didn't want to burden her with today's events. "Sweetie, how was school?" Simone asked gently. Maya hesitated, her fingers toying with the edge of her napkin. She didn't want to trouble her mother, but the hurt was too much to bear alone. Taking a deep breath, she recounted the incident in English class, sparing no details. Simone listened in silence, her face remaining calm, but Maya noticed the flash of anger in her mother's eyes. When Maya finished, Simone set down her fork, her expression steely. "We'll handle this, but we'll do it our way." Maya frowned, unsure of what her mother meant. "You're not mad?" "Oh, I'm furious," Simone replied, her voice firm. "But sometimes, anger isn't the solution. We'll address this with dignity and make sure it doesn't happen again." The next morning, Maya entered Crestwood Academy with mixed emotions. She was still haunted by the humiliation, but her mother's words echoed in her mind. Simone had promised to handle it, But what did that mean? Meanwhile, Ms. Bennett was on her way to an unexpected meeting. She had been summoned to the boardroom for a routine review, but she noticed something unusual. Simone Thomas was seated at the head of the table, her expression unreadable. Ms. Bennett hadn't realized who Simone was, but now, faced with the owner of the school, she felt a flicker of nervousness. "Thank you for joining us, Ms. Bennett," the principal began. "We've received several complaints about your treatment of students, particularly regarding how you address certain individuals, like Maya Thomas." Ms. Bennett shifted uncomfortably. I wasn't aware there were any real complaints," she stammered. "Maya is a unique case. I simply try to motivate students to reach the school's standards." Simone's voice cut through the tension. "Motivate? Is that what you call public humiliation? You've crossed a line, Ms. Bennett, and it won't be tolerated." Ms. Bennett stared at Simone, finally realizing who she was speaking to. Her face went pale as the reality set in. I didn't know she was your daughter," Ms. Bennett stammered. "It shouldn't matter who her mother is," Simone replied sharply. "No student deserves to be treated that way, but I'm not going to fire you. That would be too easy. Instead, you'll be reassigned to community outreach, working with students from underprivileged backgrounds. You'll also attend anti-bias training and report directly to me." Ms. Bennett sat in stunned silence, her mind racing. She wanted to argue, to protest, but the look in Simone's eyes told her it would be pointless. Her life was about to change, and she had no choice but to accept it. As Maya walked through the halls later that day, she noticed the curious stares from her classmates. Word of Ms. Bennett's reassignment had spread quickly. For the first time, the whispers weren't about her clothes or her quiet demeanor. Instead, they were whispers of respect, of admiration for the strength she had shown. Maya felt a sense of peace she hadn't expected, a sense of justice served, not through anger, but through dignity. In the weeks that followed, Maya threw herself into her art, using it as a means to process her emotions and find her voice. She spent countless hours in the art room, honing her skills, pouring her feelings onto the canvas. One day, her art teacher, Mr. Collins, noticed her dedication. "Maya," he said with a smile, "your work has grown. There's something powerful in it. I think you should submit your piece for the upcoming art showcase." Maya's eyes widened. She had always dreamed of sharing her art, but she had never imagined it would happen so soon. "Really? Do you think my work is good enough?" she asked, her voice a mix of hope and doubt. Mr. Collins nodded. "Absolutely. You have a gift, and it's time the world sees it." The days flew by as Maya prepared for the showcase, pouring everything she had into her art. Her mother and father stood by her side, offering encouragement and support. For the first time, Maya felt like she was finding her place in the world on her own terms. Meanwhile, Ms. Bennett was facing her own journey. Her new role forced her out of her comfort zone, working with students who challenged her biases and pushed her to reconsider her approach. It was difficult, humbling work, but she found herself learning as much from her students as they did from her. The day of the art showcase finally arrived. The grand hall of Crestwood Academy was filled with students, parents, and teachers, all admiring the artwork on display. Maya's painting, a vibrant, emotional piece that captured her journey of resilience, was displayed prominently at the front. Her parents stood beside her, beaming with pride. "You've outdone yourself, Maya," her mother said, her voice filled with emotion. As Maya gazed at her painting, she felt a sense of accomplishment and belonging she had never experienced before. This was her voice, her story, and it was finally being heard. Toward the end of the evening, Ms. Bennett approached Maya, her expression softer than usual. "Maya, I wanted to tell you, your art is beautiful," she said, her voice quiet. "And I'm sorry for what I did." Maya looked at her former teacher, surprised. She could see the regret in Ms. Bennett's eyes, the humility that hadn't been there before. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a step toward healing. "Thank you," Maya replied, her voice calm. "I hope you'll learn from this." Ms. Bennett nodded, her gaze lingering on Maya's painting. "I already have." In the days that followed, Maya's life continued to change. She was invited to join the student council, her voice recognized and respected by her peers. Ms. Bennett, meanwhile, attended the anti-bias workshop Simone had organized, confronting her own prejudices and learning to become a better educator. Through her quiet resilience and the support of her family, Maya had sparked a transformation at Crestwood Academy. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. She had learned that dignity, kindness, and courage were far more powerful than anger. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that this was only the beginning of the impact she would make.